Hey guys, this is Camfree15 and I'm back at it with another video for you guys. And I am back with some more Superman and Lois, the last episode of Superman and Lois till 2 months from now on May 18th. And here we get a pretty good episode as well as a nice cliffhanger that will leave us hanging for 2 months. I knew this show would leave us off on a cliffhanger. I knew this show would leave us off on a cliffhanger. But no, why did I believe that we were going to have a pretty solid ending? But of course, we're going to have to wait 2 months for the show to return. Oh. Great. Anyways, guys, we're back with some more Superman and Lois. Essentially, what this episode has is essentially now we get to the point of Jonathan Kent's breaking point with Smallville. The whole thing going on with the Morgan Edge situation about the son of Sharon Powell, and then stuff like this. So let's get into this episode. I'm going to split into different parts. So obviously, let's talk about what I would say next to the Sharon Powell son, storyline, the storyline about Jonathan. And essentially, we start the episode off with obviously the Kent family preparing for the Harvest Festival, which essentially is a festival tradition in the city of Smallville where they give, away some things and stuff like that, as well as have this nice festival at everything. I mean, we see that obviously the boys are like, what's so special about this Harvest Festival and stuff like that. And Clark's saying like, listen, I enjoyed this every time I was here and everything. He even speaks of the fact that there was chocolate-covered bacon. That pairing does not sound good at all. Chocolate-covered bacon. One, that does not sound good. Two, that definitely can't be healthy at all. Definitely can't be healthy at all. But anyways, what we see in this episode is that we see that Jonathan's girlfriend from Metropolis is actually going to, come to Smallville and spend it with him and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, that's nice and nice. So, and then they get to school. You have Jordan actually get set up with a date with Sarah Cushing for the Harvest Festival. But at the same time, that's when we see that Jonathan sadly gets a call from his girlfriend, and essentially his girlfriend breaks up with him. And that's essentially the breaking point for him. Because essentially, and people who watch the show eventually all knew when this episode would come, when John would finally just lose his shit because guess what? Nothing's going right for me. I don't get no play time on the football team. My brother joins the football team and he gets the play time. I'm not like one of the freaking studs on campus and everything. And now I just lost my girlfriend. And everything, and again, it's understandably, I definitely can understand where he's coming from. Now, not the girlfriend part of anything, but I can understand, having a whole change of scenery in terms of going from one school to another. Back after elementary school, my mom sent me to a school that she went to when she was growing up, essentially in the same city, because it was not only closer, it was a public school, and I went to a private school where you had to pay money to take your kids to private school and everything. But because of it, I had to go away from all the friends I knew and I had made, and had to go to this school where, the first couple of weeks I was grumpy. I was not settling in. I didn't like the school and everything. But, obviously as time passed on, I eventually grew and made some friends and stuff like that. And yeah, but, so anyways, continuing on with that thing, that was the storyline of the episode. He said, I have him essentially going on, obviously being mad and upset about everything going on. And he lashes out at Clark for saying like, I just want to go home. I just want to do my thing. Can I go back to Metropolis? And everything. One of my friends is staying there and I could go live there. And Clark's like, no, you're not going to do that because you want to go back home and everything. And that's why, again, credit to Jonathan for keeping this in, because listen, making a big move from going from the big bustling city of Metropolis to essentially what in his eyes would be essentially a town in the middle of nowhere, is something. So that's one storyline going on. The other storyline going on, like I said, is the Sharon Powell incident. And essentially her son returns, but her son says, like, I can't remember anything that happened. Like, I don't remember the text message and everything. And what that eventually leads into him essentially looking like he burnt the donation house where some of the people were donating some things for the Harvest Festival and essentially burned the house. Eventually Clark shows up there, and he kind of stays hidden from the people trying to stop the fire and get people evacuated. He kind of blows out the fire with his ice breath. He gets out of there quickly and everything as well. Then that's when we see, as Lois goes up later after the house is burned down, we see that obviously, I forgot the dude, Sarah's dad, essentially, bring up the fact that, like one of their firemen, he came down with a very bad condition because he got too much smoke in his lungs and everything. And, they don't know what his condition is going to be. Obviously, they're asking around of the fact that, was, Sharon Powell's son around? And essentially, that's when, Mr. Cushing's like, yeah, apparently I've heard he was here around. So what happens is we see the assistant, Lois's co-worker at the Gazette, essentially, is getting all this information, and she's tracking down the brother, or I mean, the son, and she eventually does come to the son, and we see that the one lady who works alongside Morgan Edge, they're making freaking, the son have these powers, and the only thing is he doesn't remember what he's doing and everything. So yeah, eventually that calls in Superman to get there. Also, in the meantime, as well, Captain Luthor makes his return in this episode, and essentially he's trying to talk to Lois and everything. Now we find out later in the episode what happens, and I'll get to that soon. But what happens is Clark comes down to Superman. Eventually there's a nice little scuffle between the son, Sharon Powell's son, and Superman. And essentially, what happens, it comes to a point where Captain Luthor sees this. He gets like some sort of bazooka looking thing. He shoots them down. And essentially what happens is the son eventually dies because, as he's activating his powers, he can't contain the powers. And he's like, you can't save me. And he just blows up and stuff like that. Eventually, Superman flies away, and Captain Luthor thinks he's got him right then and there to kill him potentially. But no. And then, yeah, so too, at the same time, what's going on at the Harvest Festival too, we see that John is going through a tough time and everything. So he comes across some people from the team, and essentially to, I guess, sulk in the misery he's already been put in, he resorts to drinking. And I'm like, at an old enough age, you're drinking? Wow. Okay, that's just fantastic. So he's drinking and stuff like that, even though Jordan's like, yo, I don't think that's smart, man. And he's like, bro, who gives a shit? So what happens later is when Jordan eventually spending some time with Sarah, drunk Jonathan comes across and kind of makes an ass of himself, as well as embarrassing, himself in front of his brother. And Sarah just dips because she's already kind of heated at the moment, because of her dad essentially coming back from the house drunk because obviously he can't get over the dude, that his co-worker essentially, and he sang a song to her like when she was little, and it kind of put her on a tipping edge, and stuff like that. So she's already kind of heated and stuff like that, and she's glad that Jordan's there with him and everything. But essentially the whole Jonathan thing is kind of ticks her off, kind of brings her over the edge, and she's like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I'm sorry, Jordan. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go home. So she dips, and it kind of ruins his little date he had planned for the night and everything. So yeah, and then eventually that's when Clark and Lois come across the boys. They smell the alcohol coming off of Jonathan's mouth and everything and stuff like that, and then they send them home. So anyways, after all of that is over with, we cut back to the Kent household, And essentially, after the whole thing is resolved, it's looking like, Jonathan's going to be in like some major ass punishment. But Clark's like, no, you're not going to be in a punishment. I'm going to let this slide one time and let this be a warning because I understand where you're coming from. And throughout the episode, we got Clark essentially relating to what Jonathan feels, and we see, a much younger Clark Kent, essentially, struggling with the trials and tribulations around the same time as this episode is taking place, which is the Harvest Festival. We see, as he's getting dressed for the Harvest Festival to get ready to see Lana Lang, and he goes to stop some of these criminals, who are like mugging or stealing stuff from a store and everything. Eventually, he has Martha Kent like, you can't do this, you can't, and everything. But that's when Clark at the time, he was fed up. He was like, I'm done with this town. I want to get out of here. I want to leave. I want to go and do something else. And it gets to the point at the end of the episode, that's when he leaves Smallville for good. And that's when he was telling Jonathan, he was like, listen, man, I was in your shoes once. I left Smallville because I was sick and tired of the town, so I understand where you're coming from. And sadly enough, that was one of the last times I got to see your grandmother. And I never came back to Smallville, And he was essentially telling Jonathan, essentially, he was telling Jonathan a lesson like, take everything here for granted. Yeah, you may not like it here. Is it tough right now? But who's to say that things might get better as time progresses? And he tells Jonathan, listen, let some time pass. We'll give it a few times. If you're still feeling like this isn't for you, then we'll talk about you potentially maybe probably rooming with your friend back in Metropolis, going back to your old school and everything and stuff like that. So it was a nice, dad moment for Clark, being understanding first. And I really did like the flashbacks they did because they really made Clark actually like relate to his son on a human basis, understanding where his son's coming from and stuff like that. And as well as saying, okay, if you're still not feeling this, most parents would typically force their things on their children, saying, no, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. But Clark's like, you know what? Okay, if you're not feeling this, me and your mom will look into potentially maybe you rooming with your friends, staying with their family, and you going back to Metropolis High, probably. So yeah, nice moment. Now at the end of the episode, we see we see Clark and I'm not Clark, Jordan and Sarah talking. And essentially, sadly, my boy Jordan gets friend zoned because Sarah's like, yeah, at this time, I think it's better that we're just friends. And I'm like, fuck, my guy got friend zoned. That's the worst feeling you could have possibly felt. But yeah, eventually it's gonna get to the point where she'll eventually start to fall for him, and maybe they'll get out of the friend zone area. So he gets friend zoned, sadly. Always hates when guys gets I always hate when a guy I know or a friend I know gets friend zoned by a girl they like. It sucks. But hey, that's just life. And anyways, we cut over to the middle of Smallville, and essentially Lana Lane is essentially introducing something going on here, and essentially had an honorary bench in the name of Martha Kent, which was a nice little thing, a nice little tribute there to Martha Kent. I really did like that scene. It was nice and caring. When Lois and Clark are just sitting together, just on the bench, just in each other's arms, you see Captain Luthor, Alexander Luthor, looking at them, and then that's when we find out, because he gets all heated and his little AI device is like, Captain Luthor, why are you so heated? Your blood pressure is going up and everything. And then that's when we find out on his Earth, he was actually in a relationship, I think even married to Lois Lane, which is like, makes sense why he has a good relationship with General Lane, because essentially he's dating / married to his daughter, which is going to even create even more drama from that point of him wanting to try to kill Superman so then he can swoop in and try to take Lois, try to hook up, I guess, with Lois Lane. I'm guessing that's what his plan is. The only thing is She's got 2 kids, and I don't think it's going to work out for him very well. So, yeah, and then in the end of the episode, Jordan's walking home after kind of getting friend zoned, and then we see Tag, the guy who was in last week's episode, last week's episode, the guy with the twitchy arm who went away for a bit, and he's essentially blaming Jordan. He's like, "Why did you do this to me? I'm gonna, and he's punching him, and then he looks like he knocks him out, and that's where the episode ends off. We get the next episode preview, are essentially an overview of when Superman and Lois are coming back, and we are literally coming back 2 months. So the show does not come back till May 18th. So we have to wait 2 months essentially for Superman and Lois. Now they're going to be on a little break hiatus for a long time. And in terms of being the time stop being replaced, Supergirl is going to be come in. Now, personally, if you ask me, I wish they just had moved Supergirl to the summertime and just let her have her nice carry off or nice send off and stuff like that. I don't know why they did it, but I think it was because of a virus issue going on. So, yeah. But other than that, that's kind of it. And yeah, I thought this week's episode was a nice send off for the time being for Superman and Lois. The cliffhanger was crazy good. And again, like I said, this show is one of the best DC CW TV shows and we've gotten. When Stargirl first came on, I really enjoyed that. I'm really enjoying Superman and Lois. Really good. And I can't wait for it to come back and stuff like that. So other than that, guys, I'm getting out of here, guys. Hopefully, you guys have a great rest of your day or night, or when you check out this video. Till then, guys, I'll put whatever your thoughts in the comment section for Superman and Lois and stuff like that, as well as hit that subscribe button if you want to get more of the other DC TV shows as I review them, which I review Batwoman, The Flash, and next week I will be starting our Supergirl season 6, the final season of Supergirl's reviews. But other than that, I guess I'll be back for Superman and Lois content till May 18th. So anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, guys, take care and stay safe out there. Peace.